So we have a lot of Texans in here, I'm assuming.
Are you from
I heard
Texas?
Dan. I'm in Austin,
Guil-
Texas.
Okay.
Guilty.
Yep, yep. So, well, glad to have everybody here today. Thank you. Welcome to the AI Think Trust. Today's session and this effort in general is really focused at sharing the collective wisdom that we gather and that we encounter as we all explore it. Obviously, AI is, some people say they're experts. It's a relatively new to the public tool. And so the AI Think Trust is really all of us exploring it in our different worlds, coming together regularly, sharing best methods and practices, and then identifying, what we need to share to make it useful to everyone. So what I'd love to do is very quickly have members of the trust just quickly introduce themselves, about 1 minute, 1.5 minutes maybe, tell what your focus is so that everyone's familiar, and then we could jump into the meat of today's webinar. So Daniel, you were talking when I came on. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everybody. My name is Daniel Marama. I am based out of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. You may have heard of it. I'm an AI systems architect with Marama Marketing. We work with established service-based businesses to help them scale their revenue without scaling their headcount. So we help those businesses protect their margins, keep their overhead low, and support those teams that feel stressed or support founders that feel stuck holding everything together. So think about the difference between a cash toll booth and an easy pass. With a cash toll booth, the gate drops for every single car. You collect the money, you lift the gate, and you reset one car at a time all day long. With easy pass, the gate never comes down. So it's a different operating model, not just a faster one. And with that, I will pass it over to Jasmine.
Thanks, Daniel. Hi, everyone. I'm Jasmine. I'm in Austin, Texas, the same as Waz here. And I am with Right Hand Support Services, the founder of Right Hand Support Services. I work with solopreneurs and small entrepreneurs, nonprofits, different founders who are juggling a small team, similar to Daniel. I help with reducing the overhead for your company, specifically focusing on operations. So if you are consistently finding yourself not having workflows or different automations and things of that nature, I help you build the infrastructure. I've been doing this for quite a while, and I really love what I do. And I have an emphasis with using AI and utilizing AI to really kind of do the work of several teams. If you are a smaller team yourself, or if it's just you, just building those agents and those automations to help reduce that overhead. That's pretty much the bulk of what I do, and I do that at different levels. So that's a little bit about me, and I'll pass it over to Sage because I can see her.
Hey everyone, I'm Sage Verde. I work as a fractional CTO, helping startups specifically with AI, but also with their leadership needs on the technical side. I recently became a partner at Rosenblatt AI that brings highly experienced folks like myself into companies to help them with either their AI pilots, if it's like a mid-market company, or helping startups get off the ground, because all of us have actually come from like startup accelerators and things like that. So a little bit of a dual focus there, and I'll also post my one pager here in chat for folks to check out.
Excellent. Thank you, Sage. Mr. Edens.
Hi guys, I'm Jackson Edens. I'm Digital Grove AI, and I work with construction trades of 100 and less employees, so really just those small businesses. And I help them generate leads, capture those leads, and then make payroll excuse me, make it less owner driven and more and automate more of that administrative roles. So I'm a little bit more tool focused than everybody else. Everybody else has got their own wonderful tech advancements, and I'm just really tool focused. Know a lot of tools and know how to implement them into your business and into your sales funnel to make your day easier and help you make more money.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jackson. And last but not least, my name is Rosary Garber. I'm the CEO of Harlem Labs. I do AI systems architecture, Prior to this, spent 10 years on Wall Street, had built a seven-figure business myself. And I really just focus on serving the business owners by integrating what I've experienced in regards to time savings, utilizing AI and looking at it very strategically. And so I, am part of this AI Think Trust, but really just 100% all in on figuring out how we could get more time back from utilizing these tools so we could focus on growing. And so, with that, I would love to hand over to Daniel the mic again for him to walk us through today's focus.
Thank you very much. I will go ahead and share my screen. Can you see my screen, Waz? Or anyone?
Everyone else can see it, all right?
We
Yes.
can see it.
Excellent, excellent.
I think everybody gave a thumbs up, and he's probably not seeing that.
No, sorry about that. So welcome everybody. Today's conversation is how do we go from an idea to an AI agent that actually runs? This is our fourth workshop, and it's actually part one of part two. Part two is going to entail taking this conversation further and looking a little bit deeper into the platform known as N8N. If you're not familiar or haven't heard of it, not a problem at all. Today's conversation is really about getting the foundations of an agent and having that conversation, as well as answering any questions that you all may have and that you brought today. So with that, actually, if you do have questions as I go through this couple of slides that I prepared today, please throw those in the chat, and then we will get to those either in between sessions or as we conclude our conversation today. So what you're looking at here is a folder. This is my SEN LinkedIn folder. And as you can see, there are dates that start all the way in April 25th, all the way down to July 21st. And the reason why I wanted to highlight that is because when in April 25th, I actually downloaded all of my LinkedIn contacts, and that was the beginning seeds of what I was trying to automate and produce what I'm going to share today. But the most important part about this slide that I wanted to highlight is that sometimes you either have distractions or priorities that take precedence. And when you put something aside, you may also gain some additional knowledge that could help further the project that you were working on in the past. And so that was something that I wanted to make sure I highlighted and noted. Now, in this SCN agent output, what you see before you is a profile of a person who has been matched to somebody else that I could possibly make an introduction to. And I almost put the cart before the horse in terms of not asking if everybody here today is an SCN member. And obviously, if you're not, that is not a problem at all. But if you are, obviously, this has a little bit of context. And the background of it is that I was trying to figure out the best way for me to go from a VC or virtual coffee and be able to tap into my LinkedIn network and make that introduction in a seamless way that didn't require a lot of time for me to invest. And so what you see here is a profile that was matched, a couple others, as well as some scores, and a number here that I'm going to highlight later on, which is the total number scanned, because there's going to be a lesson within the lesson here that I want to share, but I'm just teeing that up for right now in terms of something that I will follow up later. As far as the agent itself that I'm currently using, so let me see if I can slide that over without any issues. So here, what you will see is I'm going to describe the end result, and then I'm going to walk you through how I got there as far as the progression and some of the hurdles that I had overcome. So as far as what you see in front of you here, all I did was simply take a transcript of a call that I had with a VC. And then with that transcript, that is the trigger that is going to allow the agent to start working. And there's other ways that I could have done this in terms of setting it up so that the agent looks for anything that has virtual coffee and SEN and run the same automation. But for simplicity's sake, I simply just threw the transcript in here, which is the big glob of text that you're seeing above. Now, what it spits out is both a profile for the person who I had a VC with, as well as their ICP, their synergy triangle. Obviously, we are indoctrinated with SEN's culture, so making sure that that was embedded in the output itself made a lot of sense. And then we also have introductions that the VC is looking for. And then below that, we have some people that the agent was able to extract from a LinkedIn network and also identify via score in terms of who would be a likely good introduction and why, and how I should prioritize that outreach versus just picking random people. And so we have a tier one and tier two when it comes to that. And then the other thing that I'm going to highlight here again is that it said that it scanned 6,919 contacts, which is very important. Again, teeing that up for later conversation. And then here at the bottom, we get copy and paste options that I can deliberately just grab and go into LinkedIn, paste it, and then wait to see if I have a response. And the idea there was I didn't want to just send random introductions. I wanted to tee up the introduction to make sure that the person was interested in having that conversation. And then from there, making the introduction that much more fruitful for both people who are participating. And the link there is an easy way for that person to do a little bit of scope creep, or not scope creep, but a little bit of creeping, if you will, to kind of see if that person is really somebody that they want to engage with and go from there. And as I'm skipping around here, afterwards, one of the people that I reached out to said they were interested. So it's a matter of just going back to that same conversation and saying, hey, that person's interested. And as a result, it spit out an introduction and basically queued the introduction for me so that, again, I could easily copy and paste. And so that is the end result, but it's not the destination, because at the end of the day, there's always going to be iterations that you're going to make throughout the agents that you build. So this may not be the version that I may have 3 months from now, but it's the version that I have now that is working the way it's supposed to. But what happens is a lot of times you are where you are, and sometimes you look at the finished product of somebody else's, and no one really talks to you about what went wrong, some of the gaps, and the messy middle. And so that's part of the conversation that we're going to have today. And so, as far as an agent and what should be included, here are the 6 questions that you should ask as far as what the job description of that agent should be. And this will help guide you in terms of making sure that the agent has all the relevant information that the agent needs in order to function very well. So in terms of, I won't go through all of them because I want to make sure I don't run out of time, but what arrives in the example that I shared before, that was a transcript from a call that comes in, and then from there, the work begins. As far as what must it already know, an example of that from the previous example is obviously the LinkedIn connections. So extracting the LinkedIn connections, that's something that I might have to refresh on a monthly basis. We actually went over that process about a month ago, 2 or 3 months ago, when we talked about LinkedIn, and Jackson shared the best way to extract those contacts. And so this is the same process, except we are utilizing it for a different purpose. Now, there was never really a build phase in terms of this particular journey. What ended up happening for me is I had actually three different uh, cloud projects that I was playing around and dancing around with, but it wasn't a whole connected, cohesive solution in terms of an operating agent. And every time I kept having a conversation or a VC, I would remember that itch that I wanted to scratch in terms of figuring out how I could streamline that process. And I knew it was a matter of me just sitting down and focusing and getting it done, not that it was anything technical that was stopping me from getting it done. So it was a matter of priority. Now, what I ended up discovering in one of the first couple of iterations is I went and had a VC. And from that VC, I asked the agent, and it might have been Claude at the time, essentially to give me a list of people who would be a good fit. And I just happened to know a person in my LinkedIn network that should have been in that list. And what ended up happening is the Claude ended up not necessarily going through all the contacts that I had. So it just essentially went through the process, and the AI doesn't know whether or not it did a good job. It just knows the information that it has and the instructions that it has and whether or not it followed those instructions. And so when the agent didn't necessarily go through all those contacts, and it just basically skipped through a couple or took in a couple of chunks, it believed that it did the task that it had to happen. And so after some inquiry and some back and forth, we ended up uncovering what actually took place. And then the remedy for that was putting together a script that was going to force the process to essentially go through every contact in order to surface and make sure that we don't skip anyone. Otherwise, that would essentially eliminate the whole process. Now, when it comes to me back in the early months of this year, that's probably me back in um, April, May, June, doing the manual human glue and trying to patch things together. And then when you have other competing priorities coming up, you sometimes put that to the side, even though it's something that you want to take care of. So it's a matter of figuring out then what is the process that you're going to put in place that is going to allow you to be able to uh, complete the task at hand. And so what uh, what are the features or the components of an agent? Here are the seven that I would highlight, and this is something that even in the replay, which you can find in our YouTube channel, you'd be able to grab a screenshot if you wanted to. But the most important are obviously an identity instruction, the knowledge, the tools. The tools will separate whether it's a chatbot or an agent, the data that you give access to it, a trigger, and the output that comes out of what you task the agent to do. So in the early example, you saw the output, and then you saw some components of some of these seven steps that I've laid out here. Now, the question that nobody asks is the following. Do you want to request something from an agent and essentially hit the go button for it to bring something back? Or do you want to create an autonomous agent who doesn't require that trigger? And I would push for you to start on the left side, which is the request driven. It's a little bit of a manual process, and that will allow you to go through your own gotchas and ahas, as well as find the limitations of AI and discover them so that you can then figure out ways to overcome those limitations before you hand it over to an autonomous agent. Because there was a publicly disclosed company who went through the process shown at the bottom there. And that is not something that you want to do with an agent that you end up uh, not knowing what is going on or what they're doing. Here is a simple checklist as far as understanding whether or not a agent is ready. And the biggest highlight here is even if an agent is 88% right, and then there's that 12% that you don't know whether or not they're correct or that 12% is wrong, then you go back and figure out, okay, what was the 12% by reviewing all 100? Now you've created a task for yourself where you're investing more time doing the checking versus the agent doing the work that you originally tasked it and wanted to accomplish. And so tonight, in under an hour, what you can do is you can either decide if you want to leverage Claude code, for example. I prefer to use it in a terminal, but you can also download the Claude desktop, and Claude makes this very easy, as well as Codex on ChatGPT side. Make a folder on your desktop somewhere on your computer, and that is the folder that you're going to point your agents to. And then inside that folder, you're going to have subfolders based on different projects or clients if you're working with clients. And then you start articulating and writing the specs that we talked about a couple of slides ago. And then I would recommend backing that up in GitHub so that if anything were to happen to your computer, that backup is being captured, hopefully maybe on a nightly basis so that that is recoverable. And as far as the last slide, what I want to make sure the overarching message here is you can't compare yourself to where you are versus somebody who is at the finish line. It's more important for you to take the first step and go at your own journey. And more importantly, the other big thing that I wanted to highlight is if you have a Sarah or a Jason who's amazing at lots of things in your business, you don't want to fall into the trap of trying to create an agent that's a Sarah or a Jason. What you want to do is figure out what is Jason or Sarah great at, and then figure out what tasks you can give to agents, meaning you're going to be creating several agents that could represent some of the things that you want to replicate with what Sarah was doing versus trying to replicate everything that Sarah is doing with one agent. With that, I will throw it over to I believe Jackson to take it over.
Hey guys, how's it going today? So pretty much we wanted to give you one that you guys could take away with this. So we'll start off by showing you how to set it all up. I've been getting it to run, um, see if it's all ready to go, but we'll at least give you the rundown. One second, just make sure everything's all set up. Okay, so basically what we've got here is the Claude version of what Daniel was just showing you, right? He has the really nice and well-built application. Right here is actually one you guys can take away today and utilize using Claude. So pretty much I'm going to insert a skill, and all you guys have to do is download it, and then we're going to also send over instructions. So you just download those and you can follow them. But just to show you guys exactly what needs to happen, pretty much you go to your LinkedIn. So that's going to look like this, my great self. Go to settings and privacy, data privacy, download your data, and then you want to click on profile specifically and then hit request archive. You follow that specifically. And then in about 10 minutes, so I just put it in, so this is an older one, but it'll look like this. You just click on this and you can click on this little link they send to you here. and you're able to download all of your data. So all the way down to the connections. It's really great. So that's what I actually did is I went into my LinkedIn contacts. So it's always called LinkedIn Basic. Yeah, Basic LinkedIn Exporter. If you open it up, you have events, learning that you've accomplished, phone numbers, quite a lot of stuff. But right here is your connections. So you want those specifically into a Google Drive folder. Then you get on your Claude. So again, even if you have a free version, we're at least able to use, Claude Cowork Desktop. So something to keep in mind. But basically, all I did is so I added this. So you pretty much just go to new skills, manage skills, add, upload a skill right here, and I uploaded the SCN intro engine. So again, we'll have you guys download that. But I just uploaded that, really quite simple. And then pretty much entered in my connections. So I connected it to my Google Drive using specifically the cowork. So that'd be clicking on this, going to connectors, making sure you have a Google Drive, and then specifically clicking on that. So was right there, connections. Put on the skill, and then right here, what we can do is so I have this is a very nice gentleman, Mr. Art. This is his transcript. Tell me who my best connections for Mr. Johnson would be. And the transcript that Daniel was talking about. So again, this is not the automated version, but it's the version you guys can take away today. We'll give that a second to cook, but basically it'll go all through all of the connections and find me the best match for Miss Art. So we'll give you guys that. Yeah. Is there any questions that we have so far?
Can you
I
scroll
can
back
stop
again?
and go back.
Yeah.
Somebody was talking.
Yeah, that was me. I was just asking if you could scroll back up again just to the top to see yeah. Okay. Do we have access to that intro engine skill?
Yeah, I'm going to just send it into the chat
Oh.
here.
Okay,
And
cool.
we'll make sure it's part of the next email that we send to everybody who came today.
Yes,
Yeah.
Dana, please.
There.
I see where you have the SCN intro engine on the right. So you upload that engine into Claude or whatever you're using. How do you kick that off? Do you just click on it and it comes up, or do you have
So
to go?
it's the backslash where your question mark is. Without the shift, hit that. Yep.
Okay.
And then all these skills pop up. So some of
Okay.
these I've came up with, but some of these are already in Claude, like this design one here, explain usage. But these I made here. This one is Daniel's great tool. And so
So I
all
think
you
a
have to
real
do, sorry.
go ahead, Jackson. Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, all you have to do is click on that link, Dana, that we send to you, and it'll take it. It's just a markdown file.
Okay.
And then again, yeah, you just go to this new here, and then skills, manage skills, and then add, and you're just uploading that file.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. Yeah,
And then it shows up with the
right here.
backslash.
Yeah, this is it. Like I upload a file and I have a skill.
Okay.
Yep.
And I think that's a very important thing as Jackson moved through this that I often present to clients is this is one of Claude's superpowers. I think there's a book out that says the superpower of human beings is collaboration, like why we can build dams and run cities. Skills are where what Daniel figures out over 3 hours, you can now leverage in 10 seconds. Same with Jackson giving that out. So it's something to be very, very aware of as we move forward, because there's this need for us to solve a problem. And that's why the AI Think Trust exists, and say, hey, I'll save you time solving it. Here's a skill. And so, definitely, if there's any questions about that, I think Jackson can speak at length about it. But highlighting it as one of the key takeaways today is that what you saw Daniel present, what you're seeing Jackson present, has been boiled down and compressed. So, if you have it, nobody has to go through that process of developing it again.
And to piggyback off of that, we'd also recommend, especially along with grabbing a skill, you can also grab a repo from GitHub as an example. Similar mechanisms as far as leveraging somebody else's build and applying your own to it. The only thing that we would also make sure and recommend is that you trust the source that you are getting that from, because obviously there are some nefarious people out there that could uh, inject something into your system through you importing whatever it is that you're importing. And you can also, you may even have a system in place that says, hey, anything that comes in, I want you to scrub through it and make sure that it's clean before it touches my machine. So that is another preventative measure in addition to just being careful as far as who you are borrowing information from.
Is
Yes.
there a trusted list of skill providers that you have that you frequently work with, or do you go onto GitHub and kind of query for something that you're looking for, find it, and then send it through your scrubber? Is that your process?
Yeah, one of the easy ways to also look is basically peer review. So if there's a GitHub repo that you're interested in and it has thousands of downloads, then you at least have some kind of faith that that is a safe product, but you can still go through your own process to ensure that anything that comes and lands into your computer is something that's safe. I even recently grabbed a repo that from a person that I knew and trust, and that repo also had some analytics that they were tracking that I was able to remove from it. But it wasn't anything that was dangerous for me, but it was also something that I didn't want push out. So I was able to capture that, and agents can or Claude can help you determine that.
So whatever you borrow or bring in, you can go in and edit it and shape it toward your needs. And
Absolutely. So it's literally just like having a conversation, and saying, "Hey, Claude, I'm interested in this repo here. Please go through it and make sure that there's nothing in there that shouldn't touch my machine, and that there's nothing in there that's dangerous and compromising for me." And Claude will go ahead and go through that process and make sure whatever it lands in your computer or whatever you extract is going to be something that is safe.
thank you.
My pleasure. Sage, I think you had something.
Yeah, I was gonna expand on the concept of skills real quick and say there's a few observations that I've had so far, just working with like a bunch of startups and various business owners, and that is that um, a concept from AI that we're all having to learn as like an industry or a society is this concept of evals, where you can't really trust a skill until you've evaluated how it behaves on your specific outcomes in your specific environment, if that makes sense. And so you can proxy some of that by finding trusted sources that you are confident that they have evaled on a problem very similar to yours. So for example, when I pull skills down to do work with a tool called Supabase, I know for a fact that they do evals on that skill's ability to work with Supabase. And I think it's important not to like, you don't want to grab 100 skills off of GitHub and put them into an agent and think that's going to work. You have to be very kind of selective about what you add and either make sure that the source eval is on a similar problem or you're evaluating it yourself on your problem. And that's like it's very fascinating to me that the entire like pretty much the entire business world is now having to learn AI skills, similar to what folks have been doing back in the lab. A great example of that was there was a real estate business owner who modeled his entire real estate business using nothing but skills. And because he evaluated each skill on an actual part of his business model, he was able to scale it up significantly after that point and was confident in the skills. So just wanted to throw a few extra things in there.
Mhm. Mhm. Jackson, you got something for us?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Dana, it's not hard really to play with the scales. I would check into just being able to create them because you could be doing stuff on Claude and creating it. And just, as you enter in your branding, say, hey, can you turn this branding into a skill? Right?
Mhm.
Like, and it will do it for you. Me and Waz are both like big Manus fans. Manus uses skills. Some of Gemini is using skills, and a lot of those tools will do similar stuff like that. Just while you're in the chat, just
Mhm.
play with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once you get it built, and I'm sorry because I've never really played too much with it, you save it as a skill. Is there, and I'm going to get in here, I'm a complete newbie, but I'm assuming that there's, once you have something going, there's a way that you just click and save as a skill and you can go back and clean up the text or what have you.
Yes, to some degree, right? So let me give you a good example of skill creation in my experience. And piggybacking off your earlier question, Daniel pointed at GitHub. The AI Think Trust is really, for me, my most trusted source of, oh, is that working? Because I found a group of other people who are at my level or close with a level of interest. And when they tell me, oh, that broke, it's back to what Sage said, like, this is my eval room, right? So to a large degree, I'm getting all the context from their experiences. I would suggest that you do that. Find one or two people that say, hey, I did this thing, you want to check it out, because in the conversation, in that silence, there's a lot more learning than if you just took it from somebody offline and had to break it apart on your own. When I first started using Claude on my computer, I had a lot of messy folders. And so I said, hey, help me clean up a folder, ask me questions, et cetera, et cetera. I use a process called CRIT, context, right, role, interview, task. And because I had it go through CRIT, it helped me kind of understand first, you want to audit it, tell me everything that's in the folder, right? And then ask me where things should go in a systematic process. So at the end, everything was folded up and clean. At the end of it, Jackson is like, hey, you should make that a skill. So I'm like, oh yeah, make that a skill. So when I go to clean things up in the future, we go through that process. I have now used it to clean up all my folders, Google Drive, because it knows first audit, then do this. So now I can hand that to somebody and say, hey, I got this skill that's really good at evaluating a messy folder and asking you questions until it's cleaned up, and then creating an index, et cetera, and putting them all back in there. And so that is where, once you've finished solving a task for yourself, ask it, can you make a skill out of that? And in the future, when you're working, you could say, hey, could you call on that skill? Or it will say, you know what, why don't I use this skill that you've created to handle this? So it's a little bit of like in-person relationships and then the GitHub kind of learning from both, but then understanding that you're generating processes every day, make those into skills. So,
And to piggyback off of that as well, and thank you for articulating something very important was, is that, the great thing about the AI Think Trust is we are a group of entrepreneurs who are maybe ahead of the journey, maybe to where you are, and you can leverage us in order to maybe do the shortcuts that you don't have to go through the same growing pains. And the biggest thing that you can get out of that is if you go through the AI journey by yourself, your learning curve is going to be more compressed versus if you have a couple of people that you can tap into and lean on and go through the process with and exchange information and ideas. And then now you're leveraging each other in terms of being able to learn everything as well. And I can't emphasize enough how even within the AI Think Trust, how our exchanges has led to our own breakthroughs based on what somebody else is testing and learning and being able to leverage that maybe in a different direction or take carry the baton, one step further.
We're actually going to move to the amazing Sage, who's going to give us a really great lesson in something that I've learned is very important, but that I'll let her introduce and walk you through and wow you all about.
All right. I'll share my screen real quick. Yeah, so today I'm going to be talking about a concept that's come up a lot with startups I've worked with recently, which is this concept of loop engineering. And to do so, I like to provide a little background context, like tell a story to kind of help folks understand what this is about. A common story I like to use is this concept of the electric engine when it first became commercially viable. So factory owners bolted this engine onto steam infrastructure. They were able to get incremental gains out of their factory. And there was a lot of similar messaging to what we experienced.
All right. Is it just me or is it she's
No,
all right?
she was about to say something very important and
It dropped out. Yeah.
hopefully she'll jump
You,
back
you
on.
I can drive this a bit because she taught me this lesson. So until she comes back on, it really was a failure related to how we thought. Steam engines were there's a central drive shaft, right? And so power flowed outwards. And for generations, engineers had really built the factory around the centralized steam engine. However, once electric motors came on, they kept the floor plan of the olden days. So they weren't really releasing the power of the actual engine, the motor engine, right? They were tying it to the central shaft. And so there were marginal gains to exactly what she said. And the reason why was just because of that old way of thinking. Well, that generation kind of moved out. A new generation moves in and they say, hey, why are we still centralized around this shaft? Let's really get these motors into the various places because there's no reason to have that friction loss or that centralized system. And then there were huge leaps, and essentially that is kind of where she was getting at with our processes. Was Sage is back, so I'm going to let her jump back in. Sage, you good?
Sorry about that. I
I
actually have
took him
two
through, I took
internet
him through the floor
services.
plan thing. So
Awesome. Yeah, sorry about that. I actually have two internet services now because uh, Comcast has been kind of sketchy. Um, okay, so basically, I was trying to describe the how the electric engine came into being as a new technology that forced everyone to have to rethink how they design factories. And my argument is that right now, instead of the factory, we're talking about everyone's companies. So AI is the new electric engine. There's a lot of folks that are bolting it onto their companies who are expecting big returns, but the problem is that the company itself is not structured to take full advantage of the new engine. And it's definitely not like any particular person's fault because we as an entire industry, as a society, have been compressed into this like exploration phase where we're all trying to figure out what that even looks like. So I've been one of the concepts that comes out of that I'm picking on today is something called loop engineering. And it's this concept that loops are universal. So, for example, every 24 hours is a loop. Every company has loops. So when you bring on a new client, you complete work for that client, you offboard that client. All of that is a single loop, but within that process, you might have individual loops that allow that larger loop to be successful. So they're present in business models. And I like to say as like an important side note, if you don't intentionally model your business, the model still exists. It's just invisible and likely not being controlled by you. And so loops fit into as one of the concepts of business modeling. And loop engineering is intentionally identifying the loops within your business and that engineering can solve using this new engine or LLMs. So it's where the company is being redesigned around the capabilities of the LLM, like I mentioned a minute ago. So loops can be nested, like I mentioned ago, like 1 hour loop can be within a 24-hour loop. And once you start kind of thinking of that, you can start identifying and putting down on writing all of the loops within your business and start to apply some criteria to those loops. So an example of one that I've worked on personally is when a user of an app reports a bug with that app. There's a loop where an engineer goes in, they research the problem, they try to reproduce the bug, and ultimately they try to build a fix for the bug. Of all those tasks, if we apply the criteria of loop engineering and the new capabilities that LLMs give us, really the only part that the engineer needs to be pulled into that loop is the review of the fix at the end. So AI has done the research, it's reproduced the problem, and it's created the fix. And at the very end, you bring in the engineer for review to approve or disapprove of that fix. Some folks are trying to take that a step further as well. And we've been experimenting with this within Rosenblatt, which is this concept of can you push a loop to an extreme where the AI or LLM engine is actually owning the entire loop? It's able to actually merge that fix in on its own. And so this is where it starts to get a lot more interesting and complicated, and also why I am anticipating that one of the core roles of AI native companies in the future is going to be an actual AI engineer of some sort, so that that person can help the domain experts identify the loops that they're operating in and actually facilitate the engineering aspect of bringing AI in on that loop. So, for example, when I described a minute ago being able to do evals on your specific business process, that might be like the AI engineer of your company's job, and they're operating more as like a platform engineer to support everyone else within that company. And so basically, all of that is to kind of describe this new thing that I've been observing, and it's more just to get everyone kind of thinking. I don't have enough time to go fully in depth on how to like evaluate a successful loop versus a not successful loop during this presentation, but I'm always happy to follow up, do intro calls with folks after this to talk about this concept. And then I've also got a handout I'll be giving in a minute where I've created a PDF that allows folks to, as quickly as possible, set up something called Hermes, which is a tool that I found extremely useful as a platform for loop engineering within a business. Mostly because, as I mentioned in chat, it has this ability to create skills and be able to update those skills once it determines that skill caused a failure. And that, again, that's going into this loop engineering concept of, sure, we can have a skill and we can have an agent use that skill on a business process, but what if that process changes over time? Or what if we've made an assumption when we've been putting together this loop where the model doesn't match reality, and reality wins in the end. And so having the system self-correct to appropriately achieve an outcome is part of this concept of loop engineering. So I'll share that handout here in chat, but I figured I'd give some time for folks to ask questions as well before we wrap up.
Thank you very much, Sage. Who's got some questions? Because this is such a fascinating and relevant concept. And it's going to be very impactful when you think about Kaizen, right? That drive for constant improvement. This is where we are changing the floor plan and saying, no, don't just do it. Let the machine manage the process and the improvement. So, what questions have y'all got? Does anyone
Let
have?
me ask a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
Um, Sage, tell me real quick, what are like, you were talking about how commonly you throw in a skill, and if the process changes, what are the typical, reasons for changes, for those skills, right? Like what is typically making that skill inefficient?
Totally. That's a very broad and great question, and I can think of several different things. One is if that skill was created to use a specific piece of technology, for instance. What if that technology that skill relies on changes? So that happens frequently in engineering when, like, for example, a source of APIs changes the API, and now you have to update your system to respond to this change that you were depending on. So it's this idea of does this skill depend on something? If you aren't keeping track of that, then you naturally over time, what happens is I call it just entropy. And this happens to not just companies, but also any project that engineers are working on using AI, like when they're doing AI coding. Entropy is an ever-present concept. And loops are specifically part of their role is to help us address the concept of entropy because the system is naturally going to degrade over time. And so we want to architect a loop that will keep the system self-correcting. If we don't do that, then us as humans are the correction mechanism, and we have limited energy, limited time, limited capacity, and so on and so forth. So that's one reason why I like Hermes' ability to automatically update skills, because what happens is it runs into a situation where, oh, this way I was doing it before doesn't work. Let me investigate. Oh, this is what changed. Now I need to update this skill to account for this new change. So that's another kind of example of loop engineering.
And just rolling off of that, reorganizations, Jackson, was a second thing that truly breaks these is that file gets moved. I actually put a post out about it where a file gets moved or deleted, and so it just can't move through the process. So it either kind of hallucinates and makes up the information or just stops dead in its tracks. I think what I found, Sage, that I really enjoy about looping is I built the governor, which kind of shows how productive I am, and the loops have been running faster, so it's identified issues, fixed it. And what I'm seeing is incremental gains in that every single time that process is happening faster without me looking, but I still get the credit. And so it's about a five to 7 basis points of additional productivity, but it's just things I don't have to look over my shoulder at as much. Jackson.
Yeah, I just want to interject here. So that Claude skill had loaded and all of that. So I just wanted to kind of show everybody really quickly the outcome. Because we hadn't seen that quite yet. So right here, this is showing the guy was put the transcript in for. So this is his LinkedIn profile. And it gave me the ratings, the scores that Mr. Daniel had, exactly why I should connect him. This is their LinkedIn profile. So just want to show what that outcome for the skill is while we got 4 minutes here and just about to close out. So want to close that out for everybody as well.
Thank you for that, Jackson. For those who are visiting, would love to get feedback. What did you enjoy about today's session? Are there any questions that are outstanding? And what could we have shared with you that might have helped you better understand this? Are there any topics that you would like us to maybe cover? We'll just throw out those questions and seeking kind of feedback and, information.
I enjoyed it tremendously. It was very helpful. I'm start playing around with it tonight.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I thought this was really cool. I haven't had a chance to really play much with AI. And so the benefit I think of coming to this is it kind of gives a direction of what you could possibly play with or how to get started. I think one of the things that I read about this group is there was a situation where somebody took a video and they built a skill maybe to find the pertinent parts of the video so that they could parse it up and end up with a reel. So that's what I'm a photographer, so that's what pulled me in to kind of see what the group was about. But there are other things that I would like to automate and learn. So it's been very interesting. I would definitely come back.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. I think you and Daniel need to connect if that is what you caught, because we all have our own kind of superpowers, but we'd love for you to connect with any of us that can help you address that AI concern in your business or life. So,
Well, I think the first thing with your file skill, I do digital asset management as well. So instead of paying for an expensive asset manager like Dash or Binder, I would like to build something that doesn't have the monthly maintenance cost so that I can use that to help clients in place of, this high overhead that everybody has to overcome every month. So that's probably the first place I'm going to start is that one right there.
there you go.
Thank
So,
you. Sorry, Waz, before you close us out, thank you for bringing that up. It was one thing that I also wanted to mention is a lot of times, a lot of us use maybe 10% of the tool that we invest in. And so that is usually a great place for you to look and see if you can replace that tool if you're not using obviously the other 90%, just that one specific feature or benefit that you're getting from a tool. And the other was, please do not hesitate to leave some feedback on our LinkedIn post when it comes to AI Think Trust in terms of, what your experience is, so that it may encourage other folks to join us in future sessions. So that would be the LinkedIn event.
absolutely. And so, for all of you who might not have any questions, we thank you for coming today. We really appreciate you being here. Please feel free to tell a friend, come again, visit, and learn more from us. But we're looking forward to continuing sharing what we discover, refining it, and making sure that it is impactful in your lives and those of those around you. So, with that, we're going to
Thank
give you
you.
back today. Thank you all very much for being here. Looking forward to seeing you at the next AI Think Trust event.
All right. Thank you. It was great. Appreciate
Have
it.
a
Later,
good
everyone.
one.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.